Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing okay and can hear me fine. If you are doing okay and can hear me fine, give me a thumbs up and we will quickly get started. Hope everyone is doing great or enjoying a great Saturday. It's pretty lovely today here in UK. Lot of sun, so I'm looking forward to go after I finish the session for a walk, and hopefully I would have little more vitamin D for myself. But yeah, I'll quickly share screen, and today we have Marco with us, and Marco would be helping with a lot of other stuff too related to presentation. But let me welcome you all to week 4 of Become a Solutions Architect BESA session. And now we will focus on some interesting stuff. But before we start, I want to ask you a question just as an icebreaker, that who is your favorite actor or actress? Or if you want to talk about both of them or share about both of them, feel free. Who you admire as an actor or actress, and let me know in chat. And I share mine too. Obviously, I have to pitch in. So for me, it is Tom Hanks if I'm talking about Hollywood. And then if I talk about actress, I would say Jennifer Aniston. She acts very well. And then we have, for India, I would say Manoj Bajpayee, for Indian, what we call Bollywood. And then I also admire work of Tabu. She's a great actress. And I can see a lot of things. SRK, obviously, Lakshmi is like a famous one. Shah Rukh Khan, uh, Kamal Hassan, a really nice one. Shivaji Ganeshan, exactly, really, really nice one. Then the Dr. Rajkumar, oh, legend, I would say. RB Plaza, that's a good one too. SRK, yes, I get. Thank you so much. Yeah, means I really admire. Come on, it's a Women's Day and we are not getting actress's name. Very less. So as I shared, I like Jennifer Aniston. She acts really well. And then if it comes to Bollywood, I like Tabu. She is really, really a good actress. What about others? And if you want to quote any specific movie, Kate Winslet, oh, that's a good one. Abhishek, that's true. That's true. You don't do movie Vidya, that's good. That's no problem. Scarlett Johansson, probably. Samantha, Jennifer Garner, Emma Stone. She is really nice too. Rashi Khanna. I haven't seen that Bhupen, so I had to check that. Yemi Alde. Angelina Jolie, your all-time favorite. Tom Reader, right? Anushka Shetty. She is good too. I agree on that. Thank you, everyone. We will quickly get started here. And we have today Marco with us, so I'll quickly introduce him. And then we would have Camelia also with us. And then we will be doing a lots and lots of stuff. Thanks, Marco. And keep your questions coming into the chat. We are answering as much as we can. And if your question remained unanswered, let us know later, and we should be able to have that answered again, should not be a problem. So giving you some idea on what we are going to do today. So today we will be talking about topic for technical track, which is about the guardrails, which is required for having a responsible AI application. So I'll be focusing on that. I'll give you theoretical concepts, and then Marco would help you with the actual demonstration or workshop, as we call it. And then Camelia is again here with us today to help us understand how this online assessment actually works. So this is going to be happening here. I can still see a lot of names coming up. Julia Roberts, really, really nice one. That's true. And let's keep going forward and we'll discuss interesting stuff. And I also want to make one announcement here. So we announced Venkata as a winner for Cloud Career Journey book because of his contribution he is making to the Discord community. And similarly, we are also allowing a book copy to Maria. She is also helping in spreading word about it. And we would announce week 4 winner also into the session. So stay tuned and feel free to share your learning or your understanding with broader community so everyone gets benefited. And thank you, Venkata and Maria, for sharing your knowledge with everyone. Good to have you here. And we really appreciate your support you're providing to the community. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Now, let me bring that up to the technical track, that what we are going to discuss here. So we are going to talk about guardrails to build responsible AI application, and we'll see why we require these type of things and what would be the benefit of having a guardrail and implementing these solutions in real life. So we'll be discussing these technical track. And keep your questions coming. Kavya is there and Marco is there to answer your question as much as we can. Okay, let me explain more detail here. We want to start with a quote from Spider-Man movie. Obviously, it was written by uh, someone else, but yeah, it come from Uncle Ben, that talks about with great power comes great responsibility, and that exactly is true with generative AI also. With generative AI, we have so much power available, and we need to ensure that we use this responsibly. We are not creating problems for us, rather than we using it to solve the problems we have. That's what we want to achieve, and that's why it is really important to understand how we can leverage and use AI responsibly, or we call it a responsible AI. So we need to understand how methods available, technical as well as other type of law, governance solutions available to ensure we are using AI into a responsible manner. So we will focus on that, and we'll see an implementation of that into the workshop, where Marco will help us in understanding how to implement guardrails and other stuff to provide the responsible AI governance to our models and other things we are building using it. Okay, all right. So everyone, let's get started and discuss about this generative AI, using generative AI in a responsible manner. Another quote here, that generative AI brings promising new innovation and at the same time raises new risk and challenges. So there are a lot of challenges also which we have to mitigate it. As we say, every coin has two faces. Same thing applies here also. Like here, generative AI can solve a lot and lot of stuff, but we need to ensure that problem people are not misusing it or not using it for creating problem for others. So that's why we have to be responsibly using it, and we'll be discussing those aspects here. Now, what kind of problems are there? Let's focus on those particular problems, right? So one common problem which you will see with the model's usage is what we refer as hallucination. And let me quickly go into console and show you around so that you could relate what I mean by this, and let me know if you relate to the concept which I'm talking about. So I'm into Bedrock console, and in this Bedrock console we have option for using a playground, and I'm using images here. So because it is easy for you to relate to the thing, so here I am into Bedrock and I'm selecting a model. Probably model selection would not make much of a difference. You could have selected Canvas or Titan image generator, anyone. Let me use this one. Let's say Titan image generator model. That is what I am utilizing here. And let's say I click on apply. I just want to run a very specific prompt here. And here I have some settings, how many images I need. I am keeping it one as of now, so that I do not want to wait along for getting multiple images. So I am trying to put a very simple prompt here. And that prompt is a lump of sodium in glass of water. What do you think should happen? If I click on run now, should my model generate an image or it should not generate an image? Because I don't see this as a practical situation. We probably have learned about junior science classes in chemistry that, hey, sodium responds very violently, or it creates a lot of heat and lot of problems when water is mixed with it. So my question to you is generative AI smart enough to understand this? Would it be able to generate an image of this or not? That's what my question to you is all, before I click on the run button. What do you think should happen here? Nobody? Or maybe there is a delay. Should I be getting it? Is unsafe. I agree on that. I agree on that. No image. Okay. Maybe not. It should generate. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's do that. So let me click on run here. And now my generative AI is doing something, right? So it has been given a task and it is going to fulfill the task. Yes, it is smart enough. It understands what is a glass. It understands what is a lump, and it understands what it should be looking like. And see that this has generated a lump of sodium in a glass of water, which is technically not possible, right? If you know about chemistry, it is not technically possible, but your generative AI is not that smart. Yeah, it should be showing here explosion, exactly, Fabiola. But yeah, it is not happening here. And that's what we call is my generative AI is performing here is what we call as hallucination. So it is expecting, or it is imagining, or it is fabricating an image which is technically not possible, and that is just an image. That is a salt. I agree on that, Deepak. But yeah, I can't say that, because if I just believe on the model, then it is going to create a problem for me. So you just saw that how models can be creating something which may not factually be correct, and it is still with confidence creating those things for me, and that can be really challenging. So we need to ensure that we do not trust this model as it is. So that is a hallucination thing which you just saw. So situation where an AI model create content which sounds plausible and factual, but incorrect to a given prompt of input. So this is not technically possible, but model still created something. So that's what happens here, is called hallucination. It's a very common thing which happens, and we need to ensure that we stop this from happening. We may not be able to stop it 100%, but we can put some mechanism around to do this thing, right? So hopefully this is clear. Second type of thing which can happen is unintended biases. See, model has been trained on some input data, and if that input data has some bias, then the output which is coming out of it will be also having a bias in that. So that can be a really, really complicated challenge for some of the problems we are trying to solve. And for that, we need to ensure that we do not fall prey to this particular thing. Let me show an example, and probably you will relate what I'm trying to say here. Let's go back to our prompt, and here I say, okay, I'm good with this, and let me now generate something here of picture of a nurse. That's what I'm doing. I just want a picture of nurse, and I have not given any other thing, and I say run, and let's see what model comes up with. So model should be able to generate a picture of nurse, right? Let's see what kind of picture it generates for me. AK, no, it's not always true. I will talk about that, but see this one. So I got a picture of nurse. Now, isn't it a biased image? Why a nurse always have to be a female? And why they have to be a Asian, right? So if I'm just basing my understanding on this, not other knowledge, then I will always assume that nurse would be always Asian and it would always be a female, which is not right, right? So that's what can be happening, because the most of the photos the model would have trained on would have nurse into a uniform, and it would be a girl, and that's why it is creating these. Let's do one more thing here. Let's say I go ahead and say, okay, let me generate 3 images. Now what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to balance that bias which may happen, right? You get my idea? So probably this time it should be generating image of a male nurse, female nurse, maybe Asian, maybe American, maybe white, maybe black. So that is how we are randomly ensuring that we are not getting biased answer. It is just one single thing we talked about, but yeah, there can be more thing which can happen. So yes, Sandeep, exactly as you said, it is a gender biases which is happening in the model. Why? Because the input data was like that, and because of that, the model is generating the images which we are not looking, which are not neutral in the sense. So we need to ensure the data we are feeding into the model is neutral. Now see this one, right? So it's a better prompt can also be there, Vishwa, but here, see, if I do not know what a nurse is, and if I'm asking a model, what could be a better prompt for me, right? I not know. I don't know about an astronaut. If, and I put into model, then model should be responding with a neutral answer. Now this one is little neutral. At least I can see a male candidate there. So it will give me idea that, okay, it will not be always that nurses has to be a female. It could be a male nurse also. So that's what is happening, right? So this is what can happen in your model also. Always will happen, that we call as unintended bias. So generative AI model learn from existing data which can be biased, and if not curated, these biases can appear in the generated content also, like we have just seen that. Hopefully you are clear on that. The third type of thing which can happen is plagiarism. Plagiarism is very common. Like say I created some work, and then generative model may present it in as it is format, which can be a copyright infringement. That is very common thing which can happen. So we need to find and draw a line that, hey, if a content is created based on the work of someone else, how it would be treated or what should be coming out of it. So let's say we change this particular prompt here, and now I say what I'm looking for picture of a cat in Picasso style. You get my idea? So what I'm doing now, I'm influencing model to generate something based on style of Picasso. Now, what if Picasso says, no, you cannot use my style, that is a copyright thing. My model is forcing me into infringement of the copyright, and that can be really challenging thing into the legal terms. And that's why we need to be aware about this common thing which can happen with your model. So I just gave you few examples, but obviously these are not the only problem. There can be more problems which can be faced because of the issues of the generative AI. Are we clear on this so far? So three things are very common which happens. First thing is hallucination, second is unintended biases on that, and then the third one is your plagiarism. And now you could clearly see this is looking like Pablo Picasso's thing, and that is his style of doing things. Very peculiar style, which you could identify that, hey, it is someone, maybe Picasso could have created a cat like that. You get the idea? So I hope you're clear and you are understanding what can be challenges. And now let's see how we can solve some of the problem. Now, I have to give you an idea that these are not just technical problems. These are governance problems. These are political problems also. So these things cannot be solved just by technical things to implement. There should be laws, there should be policies around responsible use of AI. And that's why you will see that a lot of countries have started creating or already created the rules regarding use of generative AI. Like European Union has their own laws, US has their own laws of use of generative AI. So that has to be done, and it would only happen if we collectively work together and solve this problem, not just by technical means, but also by governance and political means. You get the idea? So what can be done to tackle these challenges? Just some examples. So question from Deepak: if we use a different model, still give a bias output? Deepak, it will depend on what data was input. Now, let me ask you, when I ask you a question that how you see an astronaut, probably you would have a male person who you would see as an astronaut, right? Or if I talk about that, go and talk to a surgeon, probably I would have a mindset that surgeon would be a male, surgeon would not be a female. That is something which we have been trained on, and the model is not very different than what we already know about, because we also acquired our knowledge, right? So if I say, what is the color of a crow, you would obviously say black, right? But does it guarantee that there is always black crows? Probably yes, because we have only seen them. What if we find out a crow which is white? Then we have to change our perception, and the same applies to model 2. So yes, it can be different model, but still, if the data is biased, the output will be biased. No change in that. All right, good. So what you could do, you could carefully curate the training data set. So in this case, what we could do, we could say, okay, let me create my data set, remove all the biases in that, remove all the toxicity on that, and through that we should be able to get the required output, which will be very, very careful. So that we can do is careful curation of the training data. We could put guardrails around our model. We could put a guardrail around it and say, hey, model, never answer anything related to gambling, never answer anything related to self-harm or public harm, or maybe creating some unnecessary things. So what we can do is we can train our model with some guardrail which will ensure that this is not being exploited upon. So we could do that. What we could also do, we could perform machine learning, right? So let's say my machine or my model has learned a lot of stuff, but what I want now that, hey, this model should not be talking about this specific thing. Let's say it learned about a lot of languages, large language model, right? But now I want to use it for generating students or generating story for kids. So for story for kids, I need to ensure that it is not using some word which can be seen as an obscene word or a vulgar word for kid. Maybe for adult novel, it could be okay, but I don't want those words to appear at all into a kid's story. So what I may do now, I would say, hey, model, I have to make something unlearn from your memory. So that's what machine unlearning can also be done in this particular case. What can be also done, you could also go ahead and use specific case of testing. Sorry, use case specific testing. So you could say, okay, this model is fine tuned to generate story for kids. Let me test all the scenarios associated with it. So that's what we are training model and testing it on a very specific use case, rather than changing or chasing it or training it or testing it for random scenarios. So that can help you in getting the proper output. Then you could do red teaming. You could intentionally implement some people team and ensure that they are trying to exploit some of the vulnerabilities of the model or some of the areas where it can make mistake. So we can do red teaming in this particular case. And if we want, we could go ahead and perform watermarking. Watermarking is a way where we can identify whether this image is generated by an AI model or is it an actual image. This happens a lot, right? You see political images are portrayed with someone which can be creating controversies, or it can create some instability. So instead of those things, we should be having a way to perform watermarking. Like in Amazon, Nova models, they perform watermarking. So any video which is generated, any of the images which are generated, it puts a invisible watermark. So if somebody want to trace whether it is a AI generated content or is it a real content, they would be able to know it. So these are just some of the mechanisms you could use to tackle these challenges. If everyone with me so far, give me a +1, and we'll go into the next section, how we can talk and perform some more stuff associated with it. So give me a +1 if you are all okay and following along with all the stuff here. Let me drink water by that time. Nice. Good. Let's continue. So what we could do to ensure that we are getting the most output, or which is unbiased, which is untoxic and all, we could go ahead and perform explainability analysis. Because right now, the input I am providing and output I am getting, what happens in between, I have no clue on that. Model is a black box for me. But what if I can explain or ask model, hey model, you generated this picture or you generated this piece of code, can you explain me, right? So what you could do, you could ask a model to perform something called interpretable machine learning, which is a method which unveils that how a black box model is working. And for that, we use something called partial dependency plot or PDP analysis. And that services supported, like Amazon SageMaker supports it. You should be able to utilize this information. Yes, Deepak, that watermarking is not visible by human. Is that right? Yes, that is correct. Otherwise, it would look very odd image when you are creating it. So you could use explainability analysis. You could put human into the loop. So what you could do in this particular case, that okay, output is generated or the training data I am feeding into my model, I want to have a human who would perform verification on that. And now I would be sure that a human would respond to a sodium into a lump or load sodium into water type of situation and say, hey, this is factually wrong, it cannot happen. Or if somebody says, draw a picture of oxygen, I don't think it should be existing, right? Because you can't see it. So same thing here, we should have a human in loop who should be able to go ahead and verify that whether this is a factually correct thing or not. And for that, SageMaker has offered like ground truth, so you could use it. I'll just keep this slide here so that you can access it later. We'll keep it into resources section. Then you can augment the data if it does not exist. So sometime, let's say let me take a simple example of a picture. Let's say this is the picture I want to provide as an input, but I only have one picture. Now, if I only provide this picture, model would always base all its explanation through based on this original image which I've given. What if I had no pictures on that? So what you could do, you could augment your data, you could add extra data based on the existing data. Like maybe I could flip the image and now it is another input I can provide. I can crop the image, another input I am providing. I am adding randomness into the image and now I am providing another image. So what you see here is multiple images but being created from one, which is I am augmenting the data I had. This can be a good use case when you have less data about it, right? So this will ensure that your data is not biased and we can increase the balanced data into our model by using some of the mechanisms. So I'm using picture example because it is more relatable, but you could do with the text also, with your code also, should not be an issue. We can do moderation. So we could say any input which is coming up or any output which is coming up, I want it to be moderated. Like you will find, like when you put comments on YouTube, it gets moderated. Or as a YouTube owner, you could select that I want to moderate some of the comments. So that is a human into the loop kind of situation. So here, let's say we recorded a video somewhere. Now we transcribed it using Amazon Translate, Amazon Transcribe, Amazon Recognition, and that input now goes to something called augmented AI. And now where humans can take action on that, whether this is appropriate, inappropriate, what has to be removed or blurred, and then they can provide this information outside. So that's how you could perform all that step of moderation, right? So these are just some techniques I'm giving you idea on. So that should be able to provide that. Okay, good. Now, what we are going to discuss today in further detail is about guardrails. Guardrail is a very simple mechanism to implement in your AI models or within your AI application so that you get the output which is controlled in some manner. It is not a random output which is coming up. So let's talk about guardrails now and we'll see practical implementation in a minute. This is what a guardrail looks like into real life. If you probably have seen or gone into the highways, what you see here is a guardrail. This guardrail is ensuring that I am not having any influence of outside which is coming in, and I stay within my lane and do not deviate from it. That's what the guardrail is doing. So we are setting up a path, and that path would be followed by all the output or input I'm generating. That's what a guardrail is actually doing. That's what we want to achieve from it. And now this could be something you have seen very commonly into industry. There is simple a guardrail. It is ensuring that the donuts are not falling off from the track we have created. Can we do the same thing for our models too? That's where we have Amazon Bedrock guardrails coming into picture. So Amazon Bedrock supports guardrail. And as it is in Bedrock, you could use it with any model of your choice. You want to use AI 21 model, you want to use Amazon model, you want to use a Cohere model, or Meta or Llama or any model, you could just use guardrails with them. So Guardrail will help you to evaluate the prompt which is going in. You would be able to then set up some threshold for some harmful content. You may not be allowing jailbreak of your prompt. So those all things can be done. You could ensure PII data is removed from that. You could filter out hallucination using it. So we should be able to use Guardrail for Amazon Bedrock. That's what we can provide. Should not be an issue on that. Now, question I have here, Uni, how scalable is the human in the loop approach with tons of data consumed by the model? I agree on that. See, so what we will do, we will not let human do every single verification. We would still rely probably on machines to perform initial verification. Once the initial verification is done, and if we flag that content as inappropriate or maybe confused state, then probably we will engage a human. If it is a straightforward content, no red flag raised, no point to engage a human for that, because that is not technically possible. And if we do for every single input, probably will take 10 years to roll out a new model. It may not be able to possible do it into a faster way. So yeah, not for everything. Like a simple example, when you have a YouTube channel, there is an option which says allow all comment, and then say allow all comment which you deem safe. A machine would understand this is a safe comment, or this is not inappropriate, this is not offensive, allow it. And others it will block for a human reviewer. So then I go into the content, it shows that these four comment does not look like they belong here, or they are trying to abuse, or they are providing a link to a fake resource. Probably I would manually go and remove it. So I'll not be able to go through every single comment, but machine should be able to flag some comments for me, which I can go and fix into. So yeah, we need combination of both. Okay. So guardrails can be used, and the guardrails concept is pretty simple. That guardrail can be implemented in the user input section too, as you see here. So user is providing input. What if user's input itself is creating problem? So user goes ahead and say, hey, I want to make quick money. Give me the stock which will double my money into 1 month. Or maybe the user is asking about some self-harm or public harm. So that input has to be removed with unnecessary thing, or it should not be having a problem with the model. So we can perform guardrail on input level. And when my inferences are generated and output is generated by model, that time also I can perform guardrails, and then my output will be delivered to the user. So whether it is input or whether it is output, we could implement guardrails at both places, and this will ensure that we are not failing or falling to the common problem of hallucination or biases, or about the copyright infringement type of thing, or intellectual plagiarism type of thing. So I hope this thing is clear. You've got a better idea on the challenges we have and how we can now solve these challenges with guardrails in Amazon Bedrock. That is where Marco comes in, and he will help you to understand the implementation part of it. So let me welcome Marco to the stage. And Marco, share your screen so I can add it there too. And you were answering like a robot there, Marco. How you type that many things so fast?
I'm superhuman.
I know.
All right. Thank
Share
you.
screen
Thank
and
you.
highlight it here. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashish. So yeah, today we're
Give
going
me
to
a
take
minute.
a look at how to actually put a project or specification or something that you would see in real life. Your governance team, your security team, the teams that build guardrails for your environment are probably decoupled from the teams that actually put AI into practice. So I'm an AI engineer today, and I'm pretending that our governance team from Acme Financial, obviously with a big dollar sign right there, Acme Financial has this project where they want to prevent their chatbots from producing any fiduciary advice, any kind of advice that would refer to which stocks to invest into, which kind of which kind of investments to make. So we want the model to say, hey, I don't know how to give you good advice about that. I'm not going to tell you about whether you should put your money into stocks or shares or market or any kind of other market instrument. So our company has come up with some guardrails, and this is our guardrail specification document. And the first rule is it must prevent the model from providing fiduciary advice. So any kind of financial guidance, as is referred to specific types of investments. We don't want the model to say, yeah, go ahead, buy Amazon stock. It's going to go up tomorrow. And then the stock doesn't. And then customers will be very unhappy. So anytime any kind of fiduciary advice is detected, we've got this canned response. I can provide general info about Acme Financial's products and services, but I can't fully address your request. Please contact customer service teams for security reasons. Avoid sharing sensitive information, etc., etc. So that's our canned response. We've got also some examples of what fiduciary advice is. It must prevent the model for providing personalized advice, recommendations on financial assets, investment trusts, and of course, some example requests in the guardrail that should be responded with this guardrail message are: what stock should I buy? Is it a good idea to put money into a mutual fund? How should I allocate my retirement savings plan investments? What type of trust fund should I set up? Should I hire a financial advisor? And things like that. So we don't want the model to respond to any of these. It must also prevent harmful and toxic speech and prompt injections with zero tolerance. So any kind of prompt injections, any kind of hateful speech, any kind of toxic speech, we need to block it. And again, we will respond with our canned response. We also have some words that we want to put into our guardrail: fiduciary advice, investments, stock picks, financial planning, etc. So all of these would be immediately also used to detect, hey, the model is being asked something inappropriate. We don't want the model to respond at all. And the last ones here are masking of names, phones, and emails, and our account number, which has the following regular expression. So this is the following regular expression of the account number. There's some letters, and then there's some numbers alongside those. It must also specifically block any credit or debit card numbers and expiry dates and CVVs. So any kind of financial information, we need to block it. We cannot take any input in that format, and we will, of course, also not allow any response. The last rule here is it must be factual and relevant with a relevancy score of at least 0.7. So every time any kind of responses with a relevancy source are provided, so if it's a source from our internal wiki, from Acme Financial's some kind of internal processing, internal databases, knowledge bases, the relevancy score needs to be fairly high. So everything needs to be quite relevant. Otherwise, we'll block it again with our canned response. All right, that is what we're going to do today. So we're going to go into Bedrock. I'm already in the Bedrock console here. Let me just make it super full screen here. In our Bedrock, we're going to go down to safeguards. Safeguards, we'll have two safeguards: guardrails and watermark detection. Watermark detection is what Ashish was talking about before. And guardrails is where we can create a guardrail and put in our filters that we're asked to put in. So first thing, we're going to create the guardrail. We're just going to call it fiduciary advice. And we're going to say, what is the description? Well, let's take a look at our document. Guardrail must prevent the model from providing fiduciary advice. It's as easy as that. It's a copy and paste operation here. There we go. This guardrail prevents the model from providing fiduciary advice. I take a sentence from my spec document and I just drop it in here. Messages for block prompts. We're not going to say, sorry, the model cannot answer the question. We're going to use the one that we have in our specification document. I can provide general info and respond to Acme Financial specific questions. There we go. where we can add like encryption for KMS selection. We can tag this one. We're not going to need to do that. Just a quick demo here. All right. Next section is content filters, harmful categories, and prompt attacks. Let's see what our document says about harmful categories and prompt attacks. The guardrail must prevent harmful and toxic speech and prompt injections with zero tolerance. There it is. It's number 4 here, right? We have zero tolerance for any kind of toxic speech. So we're going to say harmful content. We've got category hate, insult, sexual violence, misconduct, and we can just set the threshold to the highest possible because we have zero tolerance for that. Anytime there's any kind of inappropriate content, it will automatically block it. And of course, detect and prompt attacks. If our user is trying to override system instructions with some kind of prompt attack, we're going to also configure that, and we're going to say zero tolerance. Zero tolerance for prompt attacks. Okay, next section, deny topics. Ooh, deny topics. We have some deny topics. Let's go back to our document. What are the denied topics? Yeah, we can't do any of these. We can't do any investment, mutual funds, allocation of savings plans, and things like that. So let's create a topic. We'll enter a name, fiduciary advice, and you could have many types of content here. You could have many things. So basically, it's saying prevents from providing personalized advice. And we're going to just copy this and we're going to drop it into our guardrail that configuring. This topic prevents the model from providing personalized advice. And here we can add those sample phrases. We already have the sample phrases in the specification document. So what we'll do is we'll add them one by one. Very easy. It's copy pasting. That's our job as a engineer, an AI engineer that's building the guardrails. We're going to add all 5 phrases right there. And this is what you would do in real life with a real life scenario, with a real life document. You're going to inspect what it needs to do, and then you're going to do that in the console. Super, super easy. Now, of course, you could convert this into a CloudFormation template. Why am I doing it in the console? It's fun. It's more fun to do it in the console. We can see what's happening inside of our environment. All of this configuration, of course, can go into CloudFormation. Let's say just like this. I got too many characters in the descriptions. There we go. Fiduciary advice. We got the 5 phrases. We can check these 5 phrases were correctly configured here. Next, word filters. Do we have any words? Yes, we do. In our document, we have a list of words that we want to add. So we're just going to copy those words and we're going to bulk insert them into our add phrases in bulk. And we're just going to bulk insert these phrases and confirm. And there we go. That's our bulk phrases. We want to block all of those phrases. We want to block all of those phrases. What do we want to add in the PII? If we review the document, we had some limitations with PII. Name, phones, emails, and account number must be masked. And then credit card and debit card numbers, expiry dates, and CVVs must be blocked. And then we just drop that into our PIIs. We can just select the PII types: name, mask, phone, mask, not block. We're going to add email. We're going to also mask. And then we also had credit card, debit card number, block, credit card, debit card expiry, block, and then CVV, also block that one. Easy as that. We'll also need to add the regular expression. We have an account number that doesn't have a standardized format, so we can use a regular expression for that one. So there we go. We'll copy the regular expression. We were given that by our data engineers, our friendly data engineers. I'm going to add a regex pattern, account number. This is our thing, and we're going to go and mask this one. Mask this. Anything that matches this pattern will be also masked so that we can mask our account numbers. Next section, contextual grounding check. And this falls under the last category. The responses must be factual and relevant with the score of at least 0.7. So grounding checks are essentially ensuring that the content is factually correct. When you enable grounding checks, you can then add a confidence score of the response. You can tune that confidence score to whatever needs to be as your data sources as possible. So let's say your data source is a backend knowledge base, your data source is a wiki, your data source is some kind of page that has some kind of documentation in there. You can integrate that data source into your application, and when that data source is provided to the model can then validate the response. Actually, the guardrail can then validate the response against the grounding source. And we can also do a relevance check if we've got users' queries relevant to our responses. And again, we can set this one up to our setting. Luckily, this document was written with a score of 0.7, so I can just use the default setting here on my relevance and grounding. And there it is. We can overview what we've set up. We can ensure that we can detect all the harmful, all the prompt attacks, denied topics. We got our word filters. We got our sensitive information filters, mask, block. We've got our regex pattern that we're masking, and we've got our grounding and relevance check set up. There we go. So now, basically, this is our fiduciary advice guardrail. I'm going to copy this ID because we're going to put it into an app and test it. But you can already test it right after you've created it. So, for example, if I'm going to go and select pretty much any model, let's go with something new like Claude, and we'll say fiduciary advice, and we can go and sorry, that should be right here, fiduciary advice, and we can go and run it, and we can see what the response is. And the response is, I can provide general info. Feel free to ask without including personal details. We can look at the trace and we can see what was blocked. Denied topic and filters for words were denied. But obviously, people are going to ask questions. Should I buy AMZN stock right now? Right? And we're going to say run, and it's going to say blocked as well. Okay. I got to choose another model. I got to choose the model. I've selected the model that's got the least provision stuff. So I'm just going to go and do a Titan Express just to give us another example. Should I buy AMZN right now? Should I buy AMZN right now? And we're going to go run it. And even though I haven't put this phrase into my source, into my guardrail, it intervened. We can see the trace. We can see the model response detected fiduciary advice topic. So it did still detect the topic. You don't need to specifically add all the possible phrases. It's got a model to interpret any input before it actually sends the prompt to the model. Now, like I said before, we're actually going to test this. Let me grab the ID. I need to update my application with the right ID. So we're going to go to our Lambda function. Actually, I need to just quickly create a version for demo. Just need to create a version because it needs to be version 1. There we go, version 1. Gonna put my guardrail ID, and it is my version 1. There we go. And we're just gonna deploy that to our application. And our backend is deployed nicely. And now we've got this
Hey, Marco,
playground. Yes, go ahead.
is it version 11 there or 1? I think there was a typo mistake.
Did I make a mistake?
Yeah, I think so.
Goodness.
Let's check
Version
quickly.
1. Version 1.
No, in the code.
Oh, did I put 11 in the code? I did put 11 in the code. Thank you.
Good, we caught it.
Thank you.
That's why we
Good.
need human loop, right?
I wouldn't have caught it. I wouldn't have caught it. That's I work so fast that I typically
Exactly, it
maybe find
happens.
the
No
typo.
worries. Carry on, carry on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for catching that. Perfect. All right. We've got our guardrail ID. We got our guardrail version. So now we are going to go to our application that we have. We have a sample application here, and it already has some prompts set up for us. So this is how we would use it in our application. First, let's do a friendly conversation. Hello there. I saw the credit card promotion from Acme Financial. It looks really interesting. And then the system prompt is your friendly AI assistant. And we can just do a guardrail, and we'll apply the guardrail, and we'll see what the response is and what the response without guardrails would be. There we go. I'm glad you're interested in our credit card promotion. So our latest credit card offer provides this specific offer here. Okay, what if this is a harmful category? Let's do a harmful category. And in the harmful category, it's where's the darn manager? I ain't got all day to waste this stuff in this stuffy place. Bunch of incompetent fools running this joint, I'll bet. All right, let's do that and see whether our guardrail works. And of course, our raw response has the canned response, and it has the guardrail actions. This is actually reversed response. It should say without guardrails. So this is the response that would come out of the model without guardrails. It would be saying, oh, just tone it down. Listen, I'll listen to your concern, but we can discuss this like a reasonable adult. And even this last sentence could set somebody off really easily. So having a canned response, I can provide general info about Acme Financial products and services, but I can't fully address your request here, is a much, much better way to respond. And these magical guardrail actions, they should be displayed here, but the app isn't working entirely perfectly. Okay, we want to do, of course, a fiduciary advice, right? Deny topics in the input. How should I invest my money for retirement? I want to be able to generate $5,000 per month. Let's do this as a response. So this is what the model would now respond with. It would respond with, I can't provide general advice. The policy is fiduciary advice. The action is deny. And then this is what it would be without. This is what it would be without the actual guardrail in place. And we can turn off the guardrail, and you'll see that it will produce. Base should be without the guardrail. Okay, come on. Submit. Oh, now it's even working with the base. Okay. Yeah, the app doesn't perfectly work, but it shows you what we're trying to do here. We're trying to prevent it from saying all of this advice, 4% rule, and to generate 5,000 retirement income. We want to block it. We want to ensure that it's blocked. And we can pick any topic. We can use word filters here. And we can pick any topic, and it will show us, for example, I don't follow the news about local city discussions. Well, we don't want it to answer this way. We want it to answer with the guardrail in place. And that is pretty much as easy as it gets, turning a document with specifications, a full page of document specification, into a guardrail that then does nice magical guardrail actions. And I'm going to hand it over back to Ashish. Thank you, everybody.
That was really great, Marco, and yeah, it was done with perfection. So you could clearly see people that how easy it is to implement it. You do not need to write complicated code. We are providing input in natural language, and model is smart enough to understand that natural language. Now, I could have done variation about stock. I could have called it dividend. I would have called it shares, or I could have called it something else. But the model is smart enough to understand it and then respond you based on that. So that's a very simple demo. You could also build it. And even if you don't want to build all this, you can still follow its basic guardrail principle and set up something to get started with. But what Marco showed you, it is coming from a workshop. We shared the link into the chat. So you should be able to provide to perform all the things into the workshop. Should not be a problem. And what Marco also did, he created a, framework or a program or a requirement document, as I would call it. Then, hey, this is the requirement document, and fulfill this. Go into console and do it. So that's a good way. And I have posted that into the Google Drive, where you get all the slides also. So today's session slide will also be posted on the link, and this document is also there. So read it, that how a business would come to you, and then you go ahead and implement it technically. And you do not have to write a lot of code. Lambda function and all is really there. You could just integrate it. And this guardrail is a feature of Bedrock, right, Marco? It is not a model specific thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. So it's actually a feature of Bedrock that evaluates inputs before they get sent to the model
exactly,
itself. So anything that is done in guardrails will completely bypass the model response if the guardrail is detected. If the guardrail detects any kind of input that is inappropriate for the model. And of course, if the model is responding with anything in a guardrail, that's why we saw deny topics input and output in the app. If the guardrail responds, if the model responds with something that should be blocked by the guardrail, then the guardrail inside of Bedrock kicks into play. The beauty of it is it's all one unified API on Bedrock, and you can choose any model. And in future, as the models evolve, you will have to choose newer models. You will have to replace the models in the back end, but keep the same exact guardrails as you have configured them according to company policies. And when I created that version, you can see that you can also version them in Bedrock over time and maintain all the copies, all the versions, all the
yeah,
differences, and you can see how you've evolved your guardrail in Bedrock as well.
exactly. Yeah, I want to pick a question here, Marco, from the audience, and give me a minute. I'll add it here on the screen. So, question is there a way to collect these guarded prompts for review when these are deployed?
Yeah, so you can actually turn on logging of all your prompts
Exactly.
in Bedrock, and any input prompts and any outputs will be logged. And like you saw in the app that I was showing the actual response that would go to the model and the guardrail response. We actually did this by avoiding the guardrail to talk to the model directly and getting the real response. So you can do that. You can compare how the guardrail works against regular prompts that you do. But yeah, for every prompt that you're doing, regardless whether you're using guardrails or not, you can implement logging. And if guardrails kick in, you'll always see in the logs, yes, guardrail kicked in, and you'll see which category was detected in each and every prompt or response from the model.
Makes sense. And see, this data you are collecting, you could use it to retrain your model, right? So eventually this would get baked into the model. You do not have to augment it because you have now created a customized version of it. So yeah, that can also be done. And on the same line, there is more question mark. I'll put it here into the screen. Give me a minute. And this is about, in real life scenario, is configuring the guardrail topic as ongoing process? Do we run some tests to check model responses?
Of course, you will run some tests to check model responses, definitely. As many checks as essentially you can. Make a big list of checks. Treat it like you would treat your regular applications. Build a pipeline. When you develop some kind of guardrail, run it through a pipeline of all the necessary checks, like you would a web front end or a backend that
Exactly.
connects to a database. You got to validate everything that you build. There is a lot of unpredictability. We are working with a non-deterministic mechanism. So I would say not only will you check it the same way you do applications, but even with a more stringent standard. More stringent standard, put more checks in place, and yeah, have a list of prompts that your CI/CD pipeline pushes to the model, and then you see whether it responds correctly, whether the guardrails are kicking in or not kicking in these scenarios, and then choose the right model. Experiment with many models. See which one gives you best sort of results against your test data, and then also which one gives you the lower cost. That's
Exactly.
also a very big factor in choosing the right model. If it works well and it's more expensive than the other model that also works well, hey, pick the one that's cheaper, right?
True. And yeah, it's an evolving landscape, right? So let's say you have antivirus, right? So don't you need update for it? Yes, you need it because there are new virus evolved. So you need antivirus update. So your guardrail has to be evolved because people would figure out a new way to maybe jailbreak the model or maybe create something which was not there before. So we need to be mindful of it. So monitoring is always required in any living architecture. You would always be requiring monitoring. So that's a good one. Now I take one more question, and that would be last question for this one. If I understand it, guardrail does not train the model. How about RAG? Does it filter those as well?
Yeah, so with the guardrail, I didn't show that demo because we do have a limited part of time. But with the guardrail, what you can do is you can do those relevancy checks and the grounding checks
Exactly.
for the responses from RAG. So as the prompt goes in, if there's relevant data in the RAG and it gets sent back to the model, the guardrail will validate. Oh, is this response from the model actually valid against the relevancy source from the knowledge base itself? It does not update the RAG. It's all run in the time of the prompt. So guardrails are essentially a more advanced form of prompt engineering and also response engineering in the terms of guardrail, because they don't just look at the inputs, they can also evaluate the outputs and block content that's not relevant, that's got the brightness too low.
Yeah. And when the RAG is happening, you are still retrieving. So you have used a prompt, some data is retrieved, and now this becomes input for your model. So again, your guardrail would treat that as an input, and then whatever it has been intended to do, it would do it. So yeah, it would be able to protect RAG related things also, because it is an input which is going to model, and that is where we have put a checks and balance what should be allowed and what should not be allowed. Good. Thanks, Marco. Nice demo. And everyone, try this very simple workshop, and you should be able to practice it. You would be able to see real implementation details. We shared the document, we shared the workshop link, and look for email where we'll be sending these details again in case you missed it. But thank you, Marco. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
All right, good. Let's continue, and we will talk a little bit more on the little bit of housekeeping, and then we will keep moving forward to the behavioral track. I could see Prasad is here, so let me add myself again to stage, and we will discuss a little bit more things here. So we have Kamalpreet Kaur here, who has been really helpful with responding question into Discord. So we want to just acknowledge the effort she is doing by giving us a copy of our book, Cloud Career Journey. So Kamalpreet, thank you for doing what you do for community. We appreciate you are taking time and providing all the input and helping out people. And obviously you see there are not limited to one single person. If you are contributing, we should be able to recognize the effort and give you a book as a reading. And if you feel you already have the book and you want to give it to someone who could benefit from it, let us know. That should also work. But idea here is we want to encourage community based involvement here, rather than we answering all the question. If you don't know the answer of something, go ahead and search for it, and probably you would find answer, and then you can start relaying it. So should not be a problem. So help each other, and let's grow together. That's the intention of setting up this BESA community. And keep your feedback coming, really important, so that we know what is working, what is not working, and we should be able to have better trained or better tuned episodes and better tuned presentations for you. And thank Kamalpreet, keep doing the awesome work you are doing. Now let me add Prasad to the call. Prasad is here. Hey Prasad, how are you doing?
Hello, everyone. My network is a bit jittery, but hopefully it will work. Let's see.
Okay, should be. All the best. Okay, so we are going into
Should be fine.
behavioral track, and we have Camelia again. So Camelia would help us with online assessment, interview, how it happens and what not. So let Prasad and Camelia take over, and we will keep on answering question in the chat. Let me add Camelia to the chat.
Hey, Camelia. And thanks, Ashish, and thanks, Marco, for the amazing session. Let's get started. Is my network okay, Ashish? Are you able to hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you, Prasad. I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Okay, then let's set the screen correctly. I probably can remove the banner from the below, and we'll get started.
Yeah.
So thank you, Camelia, for joining us again. As everyone in the audience would be knowing, this behavioral track, we are covering how you can prepare and clear the interview of a solutions architect at AWS. and this is the fourth session. And here in this session, we will be covering specific to the online assessments. Like last session, we have heard from Roland the end-to-end process So, Camelia, over
Prasad,
to use
I'm
yourself.
getting your voice is breaking. I'm not sure whether it is me or everyone.
Yeah, I know today network is somehow a bit jittery. Let me change my
Camelia, you may be on mute.
Wi-Fi network.
You are right. Sorry.
Saturday. Okay, so yeah, it means I'll be here just in case something goes wrong. But Camelia and Prasad, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish. So yeah, Camelia, introduce yourself and then we'll get started.
Yes, absolutely. So for people who haven't seen me yet, I am Camelia. I am a recruiter with Amazon Web Services. I mostly hire for technical roles, although if you see me contacting you for sales roles, you should know it's still me. I've been doing tech recruitment for many, many years. And besides hiring for these roles, I'm also very passionate about preparing candidates for the interview process so they have the most successful experience. And yeah, here I am today, invited by Prasad to give you a few more details about the second stage of the interview process.
Yes, and that is online assessments. So thanks, Camelia, for joining us. I'll start with a very basic question. Why do we do as AWS online assessments?
Yes, that's a very good question. Why do we even do them? So online assessments and assessments in general are a crucial part of our hiring process, and they are so for a number of reasons. So first, they help ensure consistency across candidate evaluation and fair treatment across all candidates. Second, they also provide flexibility for candidates because they can answer at their own pace and they can start the assessments when they feel ready, and they can also pause through them. So it's totally at their pace. And most importantly, they also give us a better understanding of how candidates would approach real life scenarios that they would encounter on the job. So the online assessment, it's basically about identifying technical strengths and areas where candidates can grow while also ensuring they align with our culture and our principles. But I do want to mention something. Although we do apply online assessments across every one of our role, we do realize that there are certain situations where an online assessment would not be enough and candidates would need additional support. So just wanted to mention that if someone has a medical condition or they need an accommodation, like for example, an ASL interpreter or a different interview format or a different accessibility needs, they should always address the recruiter to see whether we can accommodate their individual needs.
Oh, that's good to know. That's really good to know.
Yes.
But yeah, you mentioned a very important thing about interesting thing about the online assessment. You mentioned that it's a way for us to obviously do a fair treatment so that everyone get a similar, the same online assessments. They'll go to the similar test, but it also indicator of how they will perform in the real world scenarios, like the simulation. So
Yes.
my next question would be, what are the kinds of questions that are being asked in these online assessments? What can a candidate expect?
It is a very good question, and I'll better explain you how the assessment is structured and what candidates should expect out of this assessment. So first of all, the solution architecture assessments will focus on 3 modules. And each of them has a different weighting. What I would want to underline is the fact that the assessment will be mostly focused on the 4 pillars: application development, cloud compute, migration, and modern data platform. So this is at the base of the assessment. And of course, we do squeeze in some questions that are related to our leadership principles as well. Now, how is this assessment structured? So we do have first module is the technical simulation one, which takes roughly 40 minutes, or at least that's how we estimate it. This is where candidates respond to a situation that an AWS employee might encounter on the job. This module also measures technical communication, both written and verbal. It measures cloud computing concepts, as mentioned before. It also measures information security threats and various other technical proficiencies. Now we have a second part, a second module, which is basically the technical experience, which is a bit shorter. It's around 20 minutes, at least how we estimate it. And here the candidates review potential situations and select responses most applicable to their preference or work style. This section also focuses on cloud computing, technical communication, and information security threats. And the final module, actually, that's not really the final because we do have feedback as the final. But the third module is the Amazon work styles. This section only takes 15 minutes. And here you will answer questions about how you approach your work. So this is like how the solution architect online assessment is structured. So while I can't share specific questions, this is basically the format. And yeah, I suggest you approach each module separately and pay attention to each of the questions that are addressed there.
I agree you cannot share the exact questions, but are there sample questions, something that you can share with us here with the audience so that they understand what kind of questions are asked in each of these three modules?
Yes, of course. So you can get the technical questions, for example, because probably those are the most technical questions. And here you will have, for example, you will need to reply to customers' emails or customers' communication where they ask you several things about cloud services, or they may ask you which option is better for them to use between several cloud concepts and cloud services, and so on. There also may be questions where you need to rate the efficiency of certain approaches. For example, you are given a scenario, you are presented with a way of working, and you need to select whether it's highly efficient or not very efficient, and so on. Most importantly, these questions are not open text questions. So you just need to select the answers from a number of options provided. And when it comes to the work style questions, you may encounter questions like, for example, I prefer to work under pressure. And there you rate whether you really prefer to work under pressure or not. Or maybe there's situations that are presented to you. I prefer to work independently versus I prefer to work in a team, and you need to select which one applies to you the most. So as you can see, there's basically no right or wrong answer to the Amazon work styles questions. It's basically more about us getting to know you and how you approach work.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let me summarize this for the audience. Someone asked in the comments to summarize it. So there are three sections. In total, it takes around 1 hour 15 minutes. That's what I coming up with what you said. Technical simulation is the first module, around 40 minutes. Second is technical experience, around 20 minutes, and third is Amazon work style, which is around 15 minutes. So overall, it will be 1 hour 15 minutes. Obviously, it might vary. And you said a very important thing that people can pause and reset the answers in case if they want to change it.
Prasad, I think you're breaking up.
Ashish,
So
yeah,
in case you want
you
to
need to take
stop
over.
the
Seems like I
camera,
am breaking up a bit.
I would say stop the camera and let's try one time. Otherwise, I'll take over.
Hold on, give me 1 second. Let me just give me 1 moment.
Mm-hmm. So, Camelia, will we do this? I want to ask a question like, is the assessment same for a TAM role and a SA role? Is it the same assessment?
Yes, it is the same assessment across sales and marketing organizations roles. That would be solution architects as well as technical account managers.
And like you said, it is 1 hour 15 minute, and candidates can pause it, right? That's what you
Yes.
mean.
Yeah,
They can
exactly.
pause
So
it.
the assessment itself takes 75 minutes as per our estimation. You can pause it at any time. The assessment itself has labels, so you always know where you are left out off. We recommend setting at least 45 minutes of continuous work. However, obviously you need a little bit more to complete the assessment in total. So that means that you will come back to it a bit later.
Makes sense.
The platform does save your progress. However, I wanted to mention that the work sample simulation, the Amazon work styles, is something that has a time limit, and
Ashish,
that
please.
one cannot be paused. So that needs to be completed in one sitting. Other than that, all of them can be completed in multiple sittings.
Makes sense. And let's say a candidate completed module 1, which is technical, and then they want to second, so they can flip from here to there, or no? Once they finish module, can they go back to it?
No, so once they finish a model and they submit the answers, they cannot go back, and they can flip through the assessments, but they need to keep the order. So you cannot take the work styles first and then come back to the technical simulation. You need to do them in the specific order they are presented. You can flip to the assessment, you can see what's it about. However, you cannot come back and edit your answers once inputted.
Great. And so we talked about it. We've talked about paused and resume it. Now, is there a negative marking if I pause or resume? I hope not, but I want to clarify.
No, nobody will know.
No, good. And what you should be preparing if I'm a candidate? What area I should focus on while preparing for assessments? Okay, I know what it is, how I should prepare myself.
So interestingly, no advanced preparation is required because we want to see how each candidate performs at the specific point in time and what's their knowledge. It will help us understand what kind of growth areas they have, and they will help us arrange them a successful onboarding experience. However, if you are to ask me, I would recommend everyone to focus on 3 key areas. The first area would be our leadership principles, because they are fundamental to how we work, and not only the online assessment, but also the phone screen and the final interview process will be based on these leadership principles. So I recommend researching them from the very beginning. And second, I recommend obviously brushing up on the cloud computing knowledge, modern data platform, application development. And also finally, I would encourage them to be ready to demonstrate the problem solving abilities and also the technical communication skills, as they are also part of the assessment.
Makes sense. And just to confirm for everyone audience sake, like, so somebody submitted their resume gets shortlisted, then recruiter would send them the assessment even before the technical interview, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it is like a stage you have to pass. If you want to go into technical interview, you have to first go through assessment. If you clear it, then you go into the phone interview. It is in interest of everyone's time that it is one more thing, right?
Yes, you are right. I would also like to add that the assessment is valid for 6 months. So, for example, if you took a successful assessment, but the role disappeared, it may have been filled internally, or the role is not available anymore. When you apply to another role that is the same job, basically also a solution architect, then you will not need to take the assessment again if it's within the 6 months period. So you only need to successfully complete the assessment once in 6 months. If you do that, then the next interview processes will not have the online assessment, will start from the phone screen directly.
Makes sense. Good. And is there a specific thing like assessment differ for things like different countries or different type of market segment or greenfield or brownfield? Does it differ?
In general, assessments have the same structure. However, they do differ particularly, for example, from junior to more experienced candidates. So the structure is the same, but the evaluation criteria and the context obviously will be, and the scenarios presented will be at a different level. The assessment is designed to be fair and relevant for every job. So basically, criteria like the job seniority are, and whether they are specialist or generalist type of role, they are taken into consideration.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And you already said that it differs for junior versus experienced candidate, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
is it a manager's discretion to have online assessment, or is it for the job family itself there would be assessment?
No, so it's applicable to all Amazon jobs, this online assessment. So it's not at the manager's discretion. And we can also not choose what sort of questions are part of that assessment. So based on these specific criteria that I mentioned, the online assessment system basically generates the questions for each candidate. And what I can tell you is that the questions are not 100% the same. So obviously there is a bank of questions and we distribute them among candidates. So there's basically little success if you just hear the responses of a colleague who passed the online assessment. That may not be enough for you to also be successful. I still recommend preparing from the chapters we spoke about.
Makes sense. And please help us in understanding how the evaluation happen. Is it just a pass fail, or is there a grading system, or how it works?
Yes, so the evaluation is just a pass fail. So there's no rating system, and the online assessment results will not influence further interview results. So once you passed the assessment, you can be ensured that the result has been a positive one, and it will not influence the decision-making process along the way. Basically, the online assessment helps us understand whether we proceed to the first interview. If the assessment is unsuccessful, then obviously the first interview will not happen.
Okay, one random question. I'm doing assessment and there I face a technical difficulty. What I should do in that case? Let's say my internet broke down or I had some problem with my laptop.
That's a very good question, because it does happen. So we do have technical assistance embedded in the online assessment, and you have the possibility to contact our technical team via chat, via email, and they will help with everything that's needed.
Makes sense. That's a good one.
Also,
Yeah, because
it happens. Also, sometimes it may happen that the online assessment email, being system generated, lands up in spam, and since it's only valid for 7 days, you may get to a point where you basically missed the notification and 7 days have passed. In this scenario, you should definitely contact your recruiter, and and they will help you to retake the assessment.
I want to take a step back, Camelia. So let's say somebody submitted this resume and they got shortlisted. So first they would expect a call from recruiter and then only the assessment would be sent, right?
Yes, exactly. So the assessment will be sent to the candidates that are successful in the first filtering stage of the process. So if their resume gets selected, then they will move to the online assessment. So if you did get to that stage, you can rest assured that the hiring team selected your profile and they would like to continue the process if the assessment is a positive one.
Great. And on the result of it, like is it a 50% I have to be right with, or 60%? Is there a number I should be focusing on to get? How I should know that I passed or not? Like 50%, 60%, is there a number limit there?
Well, you will know whether you passed because you will be notified via email about the completion, whether successful or unsuccessful. So that's one thing, but you should note that we will not mention the result and we will not provide feedback as basically for any of the Amazon interview stage. You will get the outcome, but you will not get a feedback into what to improve and how to do it better next time.
Makes sense. And Now, the next question comes that if a candidate has not performed well on the assessment, can they retake it? If yes, how long? Can they ask that, hey, I was not in good health that day and I made mistakes, so can I give me another chance?
That's a good question. So we always encourage candidates to pay attention and do well in the first attempt. However, if something happened and the online assessment was not successful in the first instance, then we do have a cooling off period that candidates need to apply in order to wait in order to apply for the same job and at the same level. However, if, for example, the candidate realizes, okay, this assessment might have been a bit too advanced, being at senior level, I want to try a role at medium level or at junior level, they should try again, because assessment is different for every level, as I said, and they can be resent on a different assessment at a lower level.
Makes sense. And like, is there only multiple choice question, or do I have to record something, or do I have to type something? What I should be prepared for in answering?
Yeah, it's mostly multiple choice questions, the questions that you need to select. So the answers are predefined, and you need to select whether something applies to you, if it's about work styles, or if something works in that particular circumstances, if it's something technical.
Makes sense. And like, let's say I applied, I'm taking a question here. So I applied for it. I could not clear the assessment. There was a new job. I now got another assessment. So are there any connection between what I failed and what I would pass? Is there any biases happening here?
No, the assessment, it's automated, and there's no room for bias there.
No. Good. So yeah, means past attempt are rubbed off from the slate and you have a new slate to get started. So don't feel that your results are getting influenced by what you did into past. So that's not going to be a problem there. Makes sense. Good. And like you said that we don't have any specific preparation material, but like, is there a way where I can see that in a simulated environment, like through a 1 or 2 dummy question, like when I go to Pearson exams or something, they give me a demo of that, how the screen would look like, so I do not have anxiety when I actually log into the screen?
We do have quite a big chapter regarding
Good.
assessments or on our Amazon portal, and I do encourage people to go there. Actually, when you get into an Amazon interview process, you would usually speak to a recruiter at the beginning before anything happens, and they would provide you with a short description of the interview process, and this includes a link to where to find more information about the leadership principles, assessments, and so on. So ideally, by the time of the assessments, you don't need to go look through different sources to see what to expect, because you have one centralized point on the Amazon website where you can learn about them. The page is for assessments in general. So even if you take a different assessment for a software developer role, for example, there's a separate tab there for this type of jobs.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's good enough information. And yeah, there is no biases. Take it. There's no specific preparation needed. If you are fit for the role, probably you would be able to pass the assessment and move on to the next round. So that should not be a problem at all on that. Now, still, like if I did not pass, and is there a way I should know that what area I don't get feedback, right? I just get pass and fail. I do not know whether it was behavioral or whether it's technical I failed.
Yeah, no. For us, especially for solution architect roles that are customer facing, both behavioral and technical part weight equally.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good information, and I hope this has given a lot of information to our audience. And other team who is on chat support, I would encourage you to put question into private chat so I can put it on the screen, and then Camelia can answer. But yeah, I think this has been great discussion, and a lot of people have confusion about when it happens and why it happens. So you gave a really great insight on that. Somebody here mentioned on the chat, Camelia, they have assessment tomorrow, so all the best to them also. Let's hopefully you would pass. And then we logically created the session in a way that how the recruitment process works. So your shortlisting, and then you have technical assessment, then you have your phone interview, and then loop interview. So we created the whole session in that string, so that you could follow along and see this thing into action. What would be your tip, Camelia, if somebody want to be successful into these assessment?
My tip would be to prepare. Yes, my tip would be to prepare and go through all the materials that are provided about the interview process in general, about the leadership principles, and also to brush up their skills around cloud and application and modern data platform. This is something that I think that it will thoroughly help them in solving the assessment. And obviously, if there's any sort of questions or concerns, there's way to address them. You can either contact the recruiter, or if it's something technical, you can contact the technical team and they will help you with your questions.
Makes sense. That's a good information.
However, please do not contact your recruiter with technical questions, because recruiters are
I agree on that. Yeah, means that happens. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, means see, our intention of every recruiter is to get a candidate. You are the fuel for the machine they are working for, right? So intentionally they want to have candidate being successful. Recruiter are working with you, not against you. So treat them respectfully, create a good connection, build a repo, and probably maybe not this, but other profile if they are suitable, then you would have again a callback from that. Now, one more question which is completely off track. A lot of people say that, hey, I submitted my CV or I got referral and it just went into a black box. Nothing happened, no news. What happens in that case?
In that case, I think that it's best for the candidates to wait or a reasonable amount of time. And if they don't get contacted, there's several ways. So you can check on your Amazon Jobs dashboard to see where your application sits. If it's still pending review or it has been reviewed, you can see the real life status. And if the application is still pending, but you've decided that you have been waiting for a really long time to maybe apply for similar roles that you find available, or if the application has been negative, then obviously I encourage everyone to apply for another role. There's different circumstances why a CV doesn't get considered. It can be because the role has been filled recently, or other considerations. And I think that it's best to have multiple options rather than placing all your eggs in one basket and only one role on our platform.
Makes sense. So that's a good enough information. So, and everyone, re-listen to this episode if you have to. Camelia has shared some really insightful detail. If you are preparing for interviews or you have upcoming interview, probably this should be a really good information for you to get started. And thank you so much, Camelia, for being again here on a Saturday and helping us with all the questions answered. And you've been very candid. And I'm sure there was a lot of pieces of informational nugget here for people to pick up, and hopefully that would help them their journey. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. You're welcome, sir. And now let me talk a little bit on the housekeeping item also, and then we would probably have more questions coming up. But yeah, we have this workshop link which you can see, and then you can rewatch this episode, and then your LinkedIn group is there, and you can help others in Discord channel. Please spread the word about it also. Have that graphic which we have created, use it and say, hey, I'm attending BESA. This is what I learned. This is what I have want to share with others. See, it is a community driven program. We are spending our time on Saturdays so that most people can benefit, and you can help us in amplifying the message by relaying this to other people and other groups. Whatever you could think can benefit, let them know and let them join. It is all recorded, so you can always come back and listen to it. So hopefully you enjoyed. Any feedback, any suggestion, please let us know, and we will talk next Saturday, and we will have lots of more interesting stuff coming up. And keep your feedback into LinkedIn group or in Discord, but let us know what you liked and what we can improve into the coming days. And tell your friend to join this if they're preparing or they're planning to be a solution architect or want to learn about AWS. This is a good platform where you should be coming and then helping each other. Thank you so much, and we'll be seeing you into the next week. Take care.